In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to share with you some of the best advice I've ever learned from my music teachers. Hi, I'm a music teacher, and this is my life. Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and welcome for those of you who might be new here. I have learned so many valuable things from music teachers that have taught me over the years, whether it was a private music teacher, a high school music teacher, or university professor. And so in today's video, I'm hoping to share with you in about 10 minutes some of the best pieces of advice that I think are so important. Some apply to only music, and some may apply to you if you're a music teacher, but there's one that's really, really wonderful that could apply to just about anything in life. So stay tuned till the end. But before we get started, you know what to do. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss another video. So this first one, you may have heard me say in other videos, but the saying goes, practice makes permanent. Now, what I mean by this is obviously we've probably all heard before, practice makes perfect, but believe it or not, that's actually not true. Because if you try to rush yourself through learning a piece, or you try to take shortcuts instead of actually correcting notes or rhythms or anything else, what happens is you get really good at making mistakes. And as human beings, we're creatures of habit, which means it's really difficult to go and unlearn the things that we actually learned before. And so you may end up still playing that rhythm wrong, or not realizing that you're making a mistake on a note. Or maybe you are making that same mistake and it's really difficult to fix it. I've been in that situation before where I learned a piece of music and then someone said, oh, by the way, this note is actually supposed to be this. There's a typo in the music. Or, hey, by the way, the rhythm should actually sound something like this. Check out this really good recording. And it's very tough to unlearn the habits that we've already formed. So practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And that permanent can be either good or bad. It all depends on how you practice. Now, if you are wondering about how to practice smarter, not harder, I'll leave a link in the description below where I discuss many different ways as to how you can accomplish that for yourself. The second one is another one of my favorites, and that is that practicing is for learning your part. Rehearsal is for learning everyone else's. So this piece of advice actually came from my high school band director. And I remember being in a concert band rehearsal. We were all sitting in the room and we're all playing this piece together. And in a rehearsal, right, you're looking at different sections of the band playing certain parts. Maybe you're focusing on just the beginning and getting a really strong introduction, right? But you're not always playing the entire time in a rehearsal. Maybe it's the trumpet section's time. Maybe it's the percussion section's time. And so for part of that, you're listening and you're writing things down. And some people, when I was younger, did not understand the difference between practice and rehearsing. But practicing is something that you do individually. That's where you learn your notes, your rhythms, your tempo, your dynamics, the articulation, all of those fundamental elements of music that you need to know and learn so that when you show up to rehearsal, you already know your part. Rehearsal usually involves other people, so whether that's you and an accompanist or you and your ensemble members, but you should show up to your rehearsal having already learned your part. Because what this teacher meant by learning everyone else's part is, say you have a 5-bar rest, but you're listening to see who comes in maybe 2 bars before that. I would write in my music, oh, trumpets in at bar 2, or bar 3, so that I knew when they were coming in. I knew when to listen for someone to say, okay, I've got about this many bars before I have to start playing again. So that way, in the middle of a concert or a performance at a competition festival, I wouldn't go on autopilot. I could trust in those little notes that I made in my music. And this concept of rehearsal is for learning everyone else's part is also really helpful if you're playing, not just resting. If I were playing in a concert band and I'm playing something that I know isn't the melody because I know how the melody is supposed to sound, then chances are I don't have the most important part. So I should make sure that, one, I'm playing the right dynamics so I'm not too loud, but I should also be listening out to see and find out who does have the melody. Because if I can't hear them, then I'm probably playing too loud. And also, As a flute player, I'm almost always sitting at the front of a concert band, so if I can't hear the melody, the audience probably can't either. This concept, of course, doesn't mean that you have to pick up every instrument and learn all of the different parts on each instrument. That would be quite time consuming. But rehearsal is for learning about all of the other parts in the ensemble to better understand how your individual part or how your section's part fits into the band or the ensemble as a whole. And the same could be said whether you're in a choir or an orchestra, a quartet, any size of ensemble, this can apply to you. That same concert band director had a third piece of advice, which I would be happy to use as a teacher, and that is the 80% attendance rules when it comes to competition. So my high school band director had a rule where you needed to show up for at least 80% of the rehearsals leading up to a competition at a music festival. So sometimes we would compete at Music Fest Nationals in Canada or the Kiwanis Music Festival. And if you didn't show up for 80% of the rehearsals leading up to that, you were not allowed to play. And there were times where this meant that instead of an oboe soloist, someone else would cover the oboe solo. I know I, as a section leader for the flute section in my last year of high school, covered part of the oboe solo. And then the section leader for the clarinet section would cover it in another movement of the piece. But this one oboist would consistently sometimes miss rehearsals, show up late. But my teacher at the time said, if you had a doctor and they showed up to, let's say, 40% of their classes, and they were going to do a surgery on you, how comfortable would you feel? Now, obviously, playing an instrument and doing surgery are not the same thing, but he was trying to get people to understand that you should be taking your commitments seriously. And if you want to play a solo, or if you want to be part of a music festival competition and celebrate that win with everybody, you need to take your commitment to the ensemble seriously. You don't want to let other people down. And really, if you think about a choir or an orchestra or a band, similar to a sport, you're all working together towards that one goal of having a really strong performance. So it was this idea of you as a musician should take your commitment seriously. There are consequences if you don't that affect others, and you should be willing and prepared to be part of the team or to step down. Now, is there flexibility with this? Sure. If someone missed rehearsals due to a medical event, but they were able to recover and practice and maybe demonstrate to the teacher that they were ready to go, that's something different. But if you're just sleeping in, missing early morning practices or something, or rehearsals, that's a completely different story. And this last piece of advice is one that was shared to me by my high school choir director, and that was, you're always auditioning. What he meant by this was that you always want to make a good impression because you never know who you might meet. He was very intentional when it came to all of the little aspects of the performance. So not just how we sang or our facial expressions or anything like that, but down to the uniforms, down to the shoes, down to if your hair looked presentable and professional, down to how we entered the risers and filled them up so that when we looked ready to go on stage, people took us seriously. He said that you should always be very intentional about all of those things because you never know who's in the audience. You never know if the next person you meet or the next person you talk to is going to give you your next great opportunity, right? So you always want to treat people with kindness, you respect. You want to make sure that you take the things that you do seriously because, again, all of those small things will matter. And he actually shared with us a story once where he knew someone who was going into a job interview. They were stuck in traffic and it was really bad construction. And you know how some people get frustrated on the roads. And so someone was in this car and they were like swearing at the car in front of them saying, "Go, move up, what are you doing?" And using some other words I won't say on YouTube. But they ended up following this one car that was in front of them all the way to the building where they were being interviewed. And as it turned out, that person swearing at the person in front of them was interviewing with the driver of that car in front of them. So this person, frustrated in traffic trying to get to a job interview, was swearing at the person who could have hired them. So it just goes to show you that you just never know who could give you that next opportunity. So you're always auditioning. Another way of saying that is like, put your best foot forward and give everything you have to the things that matter to you. In that case, it had everything to do with musical performance, but I know that he was really thinking big picture and he wanted us to interpret it that way as well. So there you go. I was able to fit 4 of some of the best pieces of advice that I've learned from music teachers within 10 minutes. Let me know if you found this video enjoyable or if you'd like a part 2. I could definitely make a part 2, maybe expand it to people I've learned good things from that are not music teachers. Maybe they're teachers or they have other professions as well. But let me know in the comments what you think, and I'm open to new video ideas as well. Let me know in the comments that as well. And like I say, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give this one a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, give us a follow over on Instagram, and as always, I'll see you back on this channel with another brand new video.